while I have the mic, I have a quick one. And this is also a call out to all the sort of sales engineers. If we have really good patterns for analytics, it's worth presenting them because it sort of documents how people do things. So AK and I have been working on ARR recently, and I wanted to quickly show off how we modeled it because I think this is actually a pattern that a lot of folks could lean on. So there's a bunch of joins. Everything up here is pretty vanilla. There's, an opportunity line items. There's some date stuff, some field filters, some always filters. Where it starts gets interesting is when we start using actually some of the topic specific stuff here. So we're building a bunch of opportunity line items out of Salesforce. We're collecting information about them, and then we're grabbing a variety of different dates about the opportunity so that we can actually look at ARR a bunch of different ways. So you can see that we've got opportunity line item facts, which is, I believe, this a query view built off of this topic. We're joining it back in, and you can see that we're joining it back in based on the opportunity start date, the opportunity end date, and the current date. And the reason we're doing that is so that we can look at what our ARR looks like at the start of a contract, at the end of a contract, and literally today on the contract, which may or may not be zero, depending on if it was the last year thing. And the reason that we are doing this inside the topic is because we're joining this multiple times, and this is really only relevant inside this sort of ARR view. Now, the complement to this is when we join this fact table back, we're bringing in a whole bunch of these fields, and we can go look at opportunity line item if we want to see this. We can go look at it, and you can see that it's a pretty basic fact table. It's got a handful of fields on it, like the first line item, the last line item, the close date, the opportunity name, and some ARR stuff in here as well. So when we join this back, we actually want to rename the fields because when we're in the UI looking at the stuff, if we're looking at opportunity line item start facts, it's really helpful to see that field as starting daily recurring revenue or starting annual recurring revenue, as opposed to just saying, DRR sum or ARR sum. And so what we're doing is we're actually doing the views where we are extending the fact table in place. So we're taking that vanilla opportunity line items daily facts, and we're talking about a file called opportunity line items starting facts. So an aliased view that extends that view and literally just renames these two dimensions. So this is just a really, really clean implementation of taking four fields or two fields across three topics or three views, renaming them only in the context of this view, and being able to hide everything else. So it's a really, really nice pattern. And to show what that looks like in the UI, we're revealing our ARR in 2023 February. It was quite low for the curious, but you can see that inside these topics now, we have current ARR, ending ARR, starting ARR, and they're named properly so that when we add them into the table, it all just makes sense. So for people that are doing aliasing, I think this idea of bringing in relationships and actually extending the views in place is a really, really nice pattern. And it's taking advantage of all the stuff that we do around, views and topics, extensions, relationships and topics. You can really chain these things together in a very elegant way. So props to the model dialects team for making all this stuff out there, because this is like a really, really clean way of putting everything in one place.
To be clear, this isn't actually out there.
Okay, well,
like a couple little things that need to happen for the topic scope views. But I can tell that people are really interested in it because I am now starting to see it in the wild as well. So thanks for sharing your demos, and we'll be sure to polish off the rough edges as soon as possible.
So, Conrad, when you say it's not really out there, it is actually in production. It's just we're not telling people about it.
It's in production. It's not, you won't autocomplete views under topics. So we've treated as, it's kind of like private beta, if you will, in that we haven't, we're not like auto-completing and it's not documented. And so there's no like way for a user to discover it on their own besides obviously watching these demos. And the reason for that is there are two known shortfalls right now. One is you're going to get really weird behavior if you do anything with these views in the context of the workbook UI based model editing. And the second is that you will probably get some bad behavior if you try and do like a SQL based view or a query based view, because our type inference just isn't being applied to those views at this time. So there's a couple of like follow-on things that that I need to take care of that just aren't quite there, and they keep getting pushed off because other priorities.
The extension rename is killer though. Like
Yeah,
even
no,
if
it's and you
like
can totally do
if
that.
for
Right?
nothing else, like when you join in contacts in Salesforce and some of them are AEs or SEs or whatever, being able to rename name like sales engineer as like an extension in place is insanely powerful without kind of polluting the model with a whole file.
Yeah, without sidetracking it too much, I wonder if we should just take an hour or two to just basically say like SQL not supported, updating a workbook not supported, and then just put it out there.
I think that would be completely fine. Like we can always layer those things on later, but like I don't think that's probably a good use case for this anyway. Like dropping a SQL block in, it's just like make a file at that
Yeah,
point.
because it seems like people really want to just tweak the metadata, and that works
It,
great right now as long as you don't try to fit in the
that is
workbook.
definitely where it's the most powerful.
That makes sense.